Hi folks, I'm Dave Gallus. This is our relatively new show. This is our third week. It's called We the People, and it's about unifying New Mexico, bringing people together. And I am running for New Mexico State Senate District 37 here in Doñana County, but today we have a special guest. We have Yvette Herrell, who's running for CD2. That's our U.S. Congressional Representative for Congressional District 2 here in New Mexico. So, Yvette, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So tell us about yourself. Well, why don't you tell me, how did you get involved in politics and what your experience is beyond politics, and then what you've done in politics?
Sure. So, well, I'm a native New Mexican, born in Ruidoso, and then grew up in Cloudcroft, and so I've been in the state my entire life, and really have been blessed to be able to not only work for businesses, but also own several small businesses. So I'm very understanding, and I get what our businesses are going through right now, especially with the government overreach, the shutdown. I know how it hurts. I did get involved in politics right after 9/11. I mean, I've always been a registered Republican, but after 9/11, I think a lot of people started getting more involved with church, and then they realized the importance of who was making the decisions on every level of government. So I started getting engaged with our county party, and then worked on some campaigns and so forth. I had an opportunity to work in Santa Fe as a legislative assistant, and then I was asked to run for the House seat 51 out of Alamogordo. And I served the state 8 years as a legislator, which was just an incredible opportunity because it gave me really the understanding of the diversities of this district and the state as a whole, but the industries, the people. And I've been able to build so many relationships because of that experience, and having an understanding of what communities or industries or families are facing in terms of government and some of the legislation that either helps them or can really have an adverse effect. That's meaningful, and I think coming to the race with that type of experience, I think that's just one of the key components to being successful, and I think people need that as we move forward through this primary.
Experience is ultimate. Now, you started out in 2011, I think it was, and then, but you left in 2018, but you didn't lose a race.
No, I left. I actually gave up my House seat to run for this congressional seat back in 2018. Okay. That's when, of course, Congressman Pierce stepped away and ran for governor. Right. So I knew that for me, serving and the passion I have for New Mexico and the people, I understood that having that common sense approach, and what's really great is those shared values all over the district, pro-life, pro-gun, pro-business, pro-God, pro-family. Those are the values I took to Santa Fe, and I believe that's the missing link now in Washington, D.C., and I believe that encompasses the feeling of most of the people in the district.
I agree.
Both sides of the aisle. We still are very, very much a Christian district, very much a pro-Second Amendment, very much pro-life. And these things, that coupled with the experience, I think are incredibly important.
Like you say, I think we're mostly traditionalists. Now, you can say conservative values, but traditional values. And,
right.
And you've got quite a few big endorsements. I mean,
I do.
My gosh, Ted Cruz, senator from Texas, one of my favorites, he endorsed you, and I think we have a video that we can show of Ted Cruz endorsing you. That's a heck of an endorsement.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Let's see if we can get Ted up here.
Yvette Herrell is a strong New Mexico conservative with a proven record who we can trust to stand for freedom and constitutionally limited government. I'm proud to stand with Yvette because she is the candidate in this race who will work with proven conservatives in Congress to advance President Trump's America First agenda. I'm asking you to please join me and other conservative leaders across the country in supporting Yvette Herrell. We need Yvette in Washington.
I am too, and I'm just so honored, really, by the number of endorsements and the people of that caliber that are standing with me and believe in my ability to do the right job in Washington, D.C.
Well, we have another big name, Mark Meadows, former North Carolina congressman. He's now President Trump's chief of staff. Yeah. Holy smoke, next to the president.
Next to the president. And again, being aligned with the guys and gals from the Freedom Caucus, because they have the values that are important to this district, but to Americans. Right. I mean, as a whole. And so that's what's really important about this.
Jim Jordan, Ohio congressman, founding member of the Freedom Caucus. I mean, he's our fighter in the House. He's my man.
He's the one who's just gone to bat and stood shoulder to shoulder for President Trump, especially during the impeachment hearings, and couldn't be more proud to have that endorsement.
Well, I'd be impressed. I hope I'm there someday.
You're right.
Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, and he's got his own TV show that I watch on Sundays. I love his TV show. So Mike Huckabee, I mean, these endorsements are great. There's another one. The NRA has endorsed you as well, and the gun owners of America, too.
Right, and that goes back to that experience as a state representative, because I have such a proven voting record protecting our Second Amendment rights. I mean, so this is why people believe in me. They know who I am. I have a voting record. You know, they can point to what I've done as a leader on the state level, and so that's why it's a natural fit to go to Washington and bring this experience and these values and the voice of the people to Washington, D.C.
Well, I've done some fact-checking on your history. Now, the one thing is the two opponents that you're running against in the for CD2, they don't have a track record, but you've been in office for 8 years. So, folks, you can go on to nmlegis.gov, that's New Mexico Legis, nmlegis, legis.gov, and you can look up the track record. And I mean, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, in your time, you've sponsored 72 House bills. You've sponsored 3 Senate bills. I don't quite know how that works.
That would be co-sponsoring.
Okay, but you've also done co-sponsoring with Senate and House bills, 53 of them.
Right.
I mean, and I've looked at some of them. I mean, one of them, the Born Alive Infant Protection.
Right.
I mean, I'm very pro-life.
I am too. For me, life begins at conception. I mean, it is such an important part of who we are as people, and I am proud to have stood for the pro-life community and for the unborn. And I've been telling people I want to take my Christian and my pro-life values to Washington and continue to be the voice for the unborn.
Absolutely. Now, I know there's been some trash literature put out because you're not pro-life. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. But I don't think, what the people don't understand is that we can't usurp what the government, the federal government's laws are. Now, Roe versus Wade is a government law, and the only way we're going to change that is if we get in the legislature, like Yvette, and we change the law. We bring that back up to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And that's not going to change. But you've done everything you can within the state structure to eliminate abortion. We
did. And in fact, if I had it my way, we would have eliminated all abortion.
Right.
But you are absolutely right. Roe versus Wade prohibits any state that doesn't already have laws on the books from banning abortion up to 20 weeks. So that's the law of the land. You cannot eliminate abortion up to 20 weeks. But the bill that I carried with 23 co-sponsors was to ban from 20 weeks to birth, the late-term bill.
Right.
And what that did was, number one, it brought a great deal of awareness to the state of New Mexico, because many people did not know that you could actually have an abortion up to day of birth.
Right.
It also would have eliminated a horrendous industry in our state. We are known as the late-term abortion capital of the country. And it's not just in the office, a procedure. It's 2 and 3 days. We have doctors that come in from out of state because it's so lucrative. And here's the sad part. Science shows us that women that will carry a baby to term have a less risk in their pregnancy than those who elect to have a late-term abortion.
Sure, there's so many complications that can hurt.
So and that's an issue that is not, it's not a political driven, it's not Republican, Democrat, it's people. And so that's a very big deal for me, and I'm so proud to have carried that piece of legislation.
I'm proud of you for doing it.
Thank you.
And doing the best you can.
Yeah.
You've done the income tax contribution to veterans funds. Now, you're very big on supporting vets.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I carried 2 pieces of legislation, and they both set up an enterprise fund. So when you do your taxes or when you re-register your driver's license, you can kind of check the box, and it'll put a dollar amount of $1 to $5. And then that goes to the Veterans Fund. It's an enterprise fund, so it can be used for multiple different things. And the cabinet secretary would then have discretion over that. But we use that to help veterans who, don't have family here, who need a proper burial. We worked very hard to get the state veteran cemeteries established. The Fort Stanton Cemetery, also the one up in Angel Fire. We worked hard to eliminate tax on veteran retirement pay. Couldn't get that done. We've worked on reciprocity bills, so that would give a military spouse who's licensed, say, as a teacher or some other industry that requires licensing, to be able to come to the state and kind of go do a fast track and utilize their licensing from another state. So we've done a lot of work for our veterans, because without them, without their service, we wouldn't probably be having this show right now. So we've got to be standing for our veterans.
I've often thought that I've missed something by not being in the military.
Right.
But at the time, it would have been I'd gone to Vietnam.
Right.
And it was a lottery system at the time. It wasn't a draft. So I figure I'm glad that I missed that lottery. You know. But,
Right.
But
Right.
I often think I missed something. But I don't think we can do enough for our veterans. They
I
should
don't
get the
either.
best everything.
That's right, and that's why I'm so compelled to do good legislation, to listen. I attend many veterans meetings throughout the year. My local, we have the Otero County, Lincoln County veterans groups. But it's just important that we're talking and listening and understanding. And I will say, though, this President Trump has done a tremendous amount for our veterans, and sadly, those are the type of things that don't really get covered in the media. But I'm working with Mr. Taylor right now. He's a veteran over in Roswell, and we're talking about the pain management issues that are happening. So just, when you stop and talk and listen, you can start finding places to help our veterans. And I believe that they, like you, they need to be looked at. They are the priority, and we need to be doing our best for them.
And their families.
They are, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see. Protection of vulnerable adults.
Yeah, this is a very important bill. It didn't get all the way through, but what this bill did is it protected our seniors who live alone, and then we'll have people maybe come into their homes to help with health care or housekeeping, what have you. And what we saw is there was a lot of exposure for theft. And when I say theft, I mean assets, retirement accounts. There are not protections in place so that if you are living on your own, say your spouse has passed away, and you start being befriended by maybe an organization or an employee or just a neighbor down the street, and we don't have protections in place to protect the assets, the retirement. That's right.
Sure.
And so we want to protect those retirement accounts. And we've seen many seniors who have lost several $1,000s of income and so forth.
They can even be hurt.
Yeah, and so
Physically hurt.
we have to make sure that there are a lot of things that we need to be focused on that aren't grabbing the headlines. The veteran situation, our vulnerable adults. I mean, we need to be.
You're talking about our vulnerable youth that aren't even born yet.
That's right.
You're talking about our vulnerable veterans that have served our country, and you're talking about our seniors.
These are voices that are rarely heard because, like I said, more people would rather talk about abortion or legalizing marijuana or things that are, right now just opening up our economy or wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, all this. But we still have these underlying issues that are happening to people all over the state, all over the nation that we can't forget about, and that's critical.
Well, I'm glad you're speaking up for them. Let's see. School district full-time nurses. Boy, that's pretty important.
Yeah, it was to try to bring in a nurse into each of these school districts. A lot of our rural school districts do not have them. I worked with Lisa Patch and other folks, nurses in school districts, to help do that. And we've got to think about the kids. We've got to think about the locations. Not every rural community has a medical facility. Not every rural community has a hospital or a doctor or a dentist. So to try to have that nurse in school.
Happen.
That's right. And the nurses take care of so many issues that come up, and first line of defense for any kind of injury, that type of thing. So again, standing up for important issues for our rural communities.
Another biggie, the Right to Farm Act. Tell me about that.
Really one of my most proud bills. The Right to Farm Act was a bill that did get passed and signed by the governor. And what this bill did is it put great protections in place for our ag industries, and it protects them from frivolous lawsuits. And what we were seeing is, especially in the dairy industry, people would relocate to New Mexico from maybe a larger city or something and buy property just a mile away from a dairy that had been there for generations, and then they would turn around and hire attorneys to sue the dairy for flies or dust or smell. And while we were carrying that bill, what really helped to push that, the importance of that is eight dairies in New Mexico closed because of frivolous lawsuits.
Wow.
This was huge for our ag industry,
important.
and we had such great support. It was good.
Good deal.
Really
well,
great.
We're going to take a short break.
Great.
And we'll be back. And my gosh, there's a whole lot of material to cover, folks. We'll be right back. Stay tuned with Yvette Herrell for CD2.
Christian conservative, and I'm a Trump conservative. I'm running for Congress, and I'm running for you. I'm Yvette Herrell, and like President Trump, I fought for New Mexico businesses and families against government overreach.
We got to drain the swamp.
That's why I'm endorsed by Trump allies like Mark Meadows, Mike Huckabee, Jim Jordan, and the NRA. I'm asking you to join us to start the great American comeback.
Yvette Herrell for Congress.
I'm Yvette Herrell, and I approve this message.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
I'm fighting for our country and our president every day, and I'm asking you to send Yvette Herrell to join us in that fight. I'm Jim Jordan. I've known Yvette for years. She's rock solid. Yvette will take on the Washington swamp. She'll boldly stand with President Trump to secure our border, hold China accountable, and help restart our great economy. Don't believe the special interest lies you're hearing. Vote Yvette Herrell for Congress.
Yvette Herrell for Congress.
I'm Yvette Herrell, and I approve this message.
Hi folks, this is Dave Gallus again, back here with Yvette Herrell, running for CD2. This show is called We the People, and it's all about you the people, us the people. And we're talking about Yvette's accomplishments while she was in the House, the State House. And we're going to start back here with some of the stuff that she's done.
Okay.
We just did the Farm Act, which was fantastic. I'm just going to try and run through these quick, but we'll get a couple biggies. Driver's license contributions to veterans. Again, you're helping the veterans.
Yeah.
Sex offenders registration to protect our children. That's big stuff. That's protecting our kids.
It was, and that bill would have simply added more crimes to the sex offender registry. And then had we gotten that passed, not only would it protect children, but it would have brought a huge grant into the state of New Mexico for our law enforcement that managed the Registry Act.
That's important stuff.
Yeah.
Electronic professional licensing.
Yeah.
Partial late-term abortion ban. Again, you're protecting our unborn children.
Yep.
Parental notification of abortion. And you know, when we had the movie, the Unplanned movie,
Yeah.
A 15-year-old girl could have an abortion without her parents notified.
That's right.
But she couldn't see the movie unless she was 17 years old or had an adult with her. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't. It's ludicrous. That's right.
We got the Balanced Budget Compact. My gosh, how important is balancing a budget?
Yeah, that's huge. New Mexico has to balance its budget, and I think 49 states have to. This was a great bill. It was a resolution, and basically we need 34 states that we can ratify it, and we use Article 5 of the Constitution to push the federal government into balancing the budget. We can use those same tools for term limits, which I am very much in favor of, fiscal responsibility, and I think right now in the crisis that we've seen and the number of spending, the dollars now that have been spent, this could be a tool that would be very helpful, and the American people love it. That polls high amongst all people, around 75%.
I just hope when you run that bill again, once you're in Congress,
Yeah.
that you say we cap how much we can
have to.
raise the debt limit, because that's where they just keep raising the limit.
We could do it through Article 5.
Okay, good deal. Okay, required medical care for infants. Again, you're taking
Yep.
care of our children. New Mexico Federal Land Management Study Commission.
Love that. That's
Tell us
another
about
great
that.
bill. In the western states, over 50% of the land is managed by the federal government. On the eastern states, from Colorado east, it's about 4%. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to go and look at the condition of the forests in New Mexico and really quite in the west. This bill was setting up a task force so that we could look at the cost and the consequences or the possibilities of bringing that land back and having it managed on the state or local level or county level. We spend over $500 million a year in royalties that go to the federal government for land management, and we can see that our forests are not being managed. We're losing our watershed, we're losing access. You know, we are.
Are we danger for fire?
Oh, well, you see the beetles. Yes, a typical acre would have about 45 trees on it. Ours in New Mexico have about 140 trees on it.
Oh my gosh, and I think
So
in California.
This bill had bipartisan support. It would have given us an opportunity to look at the bigger picture and to keep the land in the state of New Mexico instead of paying, the federal government to management. So a great bill, and especially who really appreciated it was our farmers, ranchers, communities
Sure, they
like
know the
Cloudcroft,
land.
Ruidoso,
Yeah.
the communities that are in and right by the national forest.
Well, when I get in the Senate, we'll revise
You
this
need
bill.
to. That's a great
Okay,
bill.
No problem. Okay, we got license for completion of DUI requirements. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody has made a mistake
Yeah.
and they've done their time, they did their community service,
Right.
they realize, and maybe they're in an Alcoholics Anonymous program or
Sure.
whatever, they should be able to get a license so they can have a job.
Right. Yes, and what we were seeing is people that maybe had made a mistake 15 or 20 years ago were moving to New Mexico to work in the film industry or work somewhere else, and then they were denied a New Mexico driver's license.
Oh, my gosh.
They treated them as if they had just gotten a DWI, and then wanted them to go through more schooling and more classes, even though they could prove that they had done everything the court might have required them to do. So it was, again, New Mexico is not the friendliest place to do business, and when we're trying to recruit and bring new people into the state for, whether it's for medical services or Facebook or what have you, we need to make it a little easier for our military
absolutely.
personnel and others to
And I
get a
think
driver's
illegals
license.
get
here.
driver's licenses.
Yes,
it's like,
they do.
come on, give me a break,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
Okay. Late-term abortion ban,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
you're taking care of that.
Yeah.
Minority math science advancement program.
Yeah, for our students.
Sure. I mean, helping minorities. The poor in our country need the help.
That's right.
To get them advanced, to bring them up.
That's right.
Use of trail safety fund for maintenance.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we have access to the different trails and the outdoors. I mean, I am really proud to say that I work across the aisle. I work with different groups of people, but I always listened. And if we could bring legislation that would benefit New Mexicans and do it in a really good way that everybody could understand, that we could have buy-in from everybody, not a frivolous bill, but something that would actually make sense for people. And I'm so proud that I was able to work with so many different groups and with my colleagues and across the aisle to get some of these bills
Now, wait,
introduced.
I thought Republicans hate the environment.
Yeah, no.
Doesn't seem so.
We've got a responsibility to conserve our environment, and we need to work together in doing so.
Okay. New Mexico Community Development Program.
Yeah, and I am right off the top of my head not understanding or not remembering exactly that bill.
Okay,
But
well,
if you pulled
community
it up,
development sounds pretty
well,
good to me.
we obviously, would have had to do something in community development or economic development within the communities and giving them the tools that they need to ensure that we can grow and prosper.
Well, I guess it's hard to remember 72 House bills that you
Yeah, and-
sponsored yourself,
right?
53 combined Senate and House bills. It's like, my gosh, I think you've been pretty busy.
Yeah, great
now,
opportunity.
You have a lot of support. I was
Yeah.
up for the delegate meeting in Albuquerque where we chose
Right.
the people that we wanted to run.
Pre-primary convention.
Pre-primary convention.
Yeah.
And you got a large majority. You got 66% of the vote
I
up
did.
there. Your
I
next
did.
closest rival got 33%.
Right.
And then the lowest one got 1%. That's not too good. So a lot of folks believe in you, trust you,
Yeah.
know you.
Yeah, I think people know me really as a trusted leader, a Christian who served, my word has always meant the world to me. And when I tell people I'm going to do something, we do it. And for me, it's my character, my integrity, and just having, again, those relationships and that name ID and having served and then gotten so acquainted with so many people around the district and around the state, really, in terms of what's working or not working for their communities, for their families, for their businesses. And I think when you put yourself in a position of running for office or holding public office, people need leaders they can count on. I mean, and I say this all the time. It matters who's making the decisions for us on every level of government. And when I can build relationships and bring different people and industries into the conversation so they can say, hey, this bill is great, it's great for me, or it's going to hurt my business, that's why it matters. I mean, that's the kind of relationship, that's the kind of representation people deserve.
Sure.
To be a part of the decision making. Because it's too easy to take an up or down vote and not worry about how that affects somebody's bottom dollar or family.
Sure.
And when we can have that conversation, we can either amend a bill or fix a bill or try to kill the bill.
Sure.
But if you're not talking to the people, then you're not representing the people that need you to.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, some folks, they might not understand that you have to follow the U.S. Constitution
Right.
and the New Mexico State Constitution.
That's right.
Now, one thing I've noticed, and I've had people call me and say, well, who do you like in CD2
Right.
race? And I tell them because you're my choice in CD2.
Thank you.
But I've also heard from people, they say, oh, Yvette's running a trash ad.
Oh.
And I said, well, wait a minute. That's not Yvette. So,
Yes.
so could you? This is the card that you put out,
Yes.
and it says here. I mean, if you don't see folks on the top or somewhere on the card, who's actually putting this out? This is if you don't see paid for by Yvette for Congress, it's not put out by
mine.
her.
That's
now,
right.
it could be put out by a group of people that maybe want to help you, but by attacking another opponent, to me, that's not the way to do it.
Right, and so I'm glad you bring that up because, people spoke, we listened, and we are running a very clean and a very fair campaign because I want to run on what I bring to the table and my experience and the issues that we're facing right now, opening up our economies, putting our people back to work, making sure our kids are taken care of. How do we get through the next number of months and maybe years and revitalize our economies and keep America moving in the right direction? And I've heard that too, and I'm so glad you bring it up because every single one of these mailers, it has to disclose who's paying for it.
Right.
And on the TV ads, and people need to know, I can only control my campaign. I can't control, the outside groups, whether they're from New Mexico, DC, wherever. And we are running 2 really solid ads. In fact, we just played both of them.
So
the
Ted
Jim
Cruz,
Jordan ad
Jim
and
Jordan,
the one that I did. That's what I have control over. So I'm keeping my head down. I'm running strong because people deserve a leader who is going to do the right thing. But we have a great message going out on radio right now, the 2 positive ads. This is the only, well, actually the mailer we have going out is a little bit smaller than this.
But it's the same information.
It's the same information.
Right.
It's really great, both sides.
Yep.
And but I want people to know, look at the mailers and listen to those ads on TV. It will tell you what candidate approves them and what outside group might be paying for them. That's important.
Well,
and,
I've always thought that you run a clean campaign. I know
Thank
it last time, and I've always been proud of the way you run a campaign. If
Thank
you
you.
can't run on your own merit,
that's just
then,
it.
what do you have?
And
if
there's
you're
not
gonna
an
attack someone
appetite.
else?
There's not an appetite for this ugly. And when people put out real falsehoods and turn things around, to me that speaks more to their character than it does about the attack
Absolutely.
on me.
I
And
agree.
I just keep praying about it. We're just going to keep working hard. I feel like, again, understanding this, the economies, the industries, the people, the culture, and having just the endorsements. These men and women, these groups, they would not be standing with Yvette Herrell for Congress if they weren't ready.
Well, how can people help with your campaign? And,
Yeah.
And where can they get in touch with you?
You know what? They need to go to YvetteHerrell.com. They can go to my website and look at my platform, learn all about me. They can email me at Yvette@YvetteHerrell.com. We are very much on top of our emails, and I would just appreciate so much your continued prayers for me, but for our nation and our state and our president. Would love to have your support, and I really would appreciate your vote.
Yvette Herrell, CD2. Thank
Yeah.
you, Yvette. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
You have my vote,
Thank
and
you.
I hope a lot of others as well. We'll see you next week on We the People. See you, folks.